My name is Jim Dorrance, and I have been a 4D database developer for over 20 years. This video demonstrates an agenda using 4D's implementation of scalable vector graphics, SVG, an XML-based vector image format for two-dimensional graphics. I have assembled all my tests, projects, ideas, and components into a database I call the Sandbox. The base is multi-business, multi-site, multi-user, and multi-language. I'll start by selecting a business where English is the default language, then a site, and then a user. Since it is a demo database, the password will be filled in automatically. Once in the Navigator, we will switch to the graphical view and select the calendar module. Let's look at the screens, starting with the day view. On the left side is the event bar. The event bar graphically displays the current time and any meetings the current user has during the day. The taskbar is at the top of the screen. It has a language pop-up that allows the user to select his preferred language. The main Windows toolbar offers options for printing, minimizing, navigation, and search. The sticky button minimizes the current view, allowing the user to keep it available for consultation at all times using minimal screen space. The navigation buttons allow the user to switch between the day, week, month, and year view. The toolbar can be toggled between hidden and shown, and the window can be enlarged to full screen size. The contents area of the window has a title displaying the current date range. There are buttons for navigating forwards or backwards from the current date. There are 4 areas displaying data. 3 areas show the data graphically by type. The 4th area displays a list of all the data of all the types for the current date span. These areas can be collapsed, expanded, or hidden. Here are several of the ways to customize the scheduled events area. Right-clicking in the area brings up a contextual pop-up menu. It is possible to limit the times displayed in the area. The default value is from midnight to midnight, that is 24 hours. It is also possible to set the opening and closing times for your business. That way you are free to make meetings at any time during the day, but you would know to limit your business meetings to opening hours. You can also set how many hours are displayed without scrolling in the area. The default value is 4 hours. That way it's easy to see without extensive scrolling what has to be done in the morning and what is scheduled for the afternoon. The default event length for new events can also be set. The default value is 30 minutes. There is also an option to show a left pane with a calendar widget and various resources. Let's look at several ways a user might customize his calendar views. A database with one user would not need the societies, sites, and users areas. Let's imagine that he always starts with the day view, selects his calendar, and then occasionally goes to the week, month, and year views. In the week, month, and year views, he could eliminate all superfluous areas. Let's look at another scenario where the database is multi-society, multi-site, and multi-user. The administrators need to verify the activities of different sites and users. The administrator could compare the number of meetings scheduled by society, site, user, or calendar. More saturated colors indicate more scheduled events for the day. Let's start by creating an all-day event. There are 3 ways of creating an event. Selecting the Create menu line in the Events menu, clicking the plus icon in the area's header rect, or double-clicking on an available time slot in the area. Once an event has been created, it is also visible in the Data List area. A task is created in the same way as an all-day event. Either selecting the Create menu line in the Events menu, clicking the plus icon in the area's header rect, or double-clicking on an available time slot in the area. When a scheduled event is created, a marker is created in the event bar showing that the event is scheduled for the current user at the specific time. Deleting the event, select backspace, removes the marker. Once a scheduled event has been created and selected, you can set its repeat options using the menu item in the Events menu or Command R. Events can also be duplicated, Command D. And an event can be moved to a new time slot, long click and drag. An event's details can be consulted at any time by option clicking on an event. This works in all views for all types of events. Clicking outside the balloon closes the window. Clicking on a field in the Detail view allows the data to be modified. Clicking outside the balloon closes the window, and if there were changes, ask if the changes should be kept. Affecting the color field is useful for tagging an event. In some views, when there are many events, the entire title cannot be displayed. Tagging an event of a specific type with a specific color helps you identify them easily. An example would be giving all internal meetings a yellow tag, enabling you to spot them easily in the month view. Let's look at some of the code behind all this. This is an interpreted database with all the debug options enabled, so we have structure access. The first thing we will look at is the XML generated from one of the areas in the day view. I intentionally chose a day without any events to illustrate that the container and the contents are created separately. The container is created with three types of objects: rectangles, lines, and texts. CSS defines the attributes for each of these types of objects, and a group is created for each of these types of objects with its style set to the corresponding CSS. This creates compact XML. Only the X, Y, and ID attributes need to be set for each object. We can also see that CSS and groups have been created for any eventual data, should there be data for this specific date range. Here is the 4D code that displays the day's scheduled events. We need the start date and end date, even though it's a day view, because some of this code is also used to draw weeks. When a window is opened, it always opens to a specific size. Knowing this allows me to define templates for the views. If the template has not yet been created, it is created. The reference to this template is then copied to a process variable that will become the reference for the current view. We now have the XML for the container, and only if there is data for the date is it necessary to draw the data. This greatly optimizes speed, especially in the month and year views. Finally, I like to show some of the code that draws the actual SVG area. This type of code can sometimes be quite long. I have created several methods that allow me to use case-if statements in a repeat loop so that I can divide complex code into a series of simple elements. The case-if loop code merely looks for a Boolean array element not yet set to true, sets it to true, and returns that element as the current node to be executed. It consumes no noticeable time. The next step in the project is to create a CSS editor to allow the end user to customize the interface. When I work for a client, and after we have discussed and defined what is to be done, I'd like to propose a default interface. But finally, it's the client who knows best what he likes, prefers. So for a long time, I have also been including an attribute editor with any module that has an interface. The Navigator has an attributes editor, so I'd like to show it to give an idea what the attributes editor for the calendar will be like. Let's turn on hover on and off. Background color. Let's play with the various settings for a while. And finally, let's revert to default.